All right, let's get Andy framework set up. All right, so I did go over in class, but if you forgot, I'm going to go ahead and go through the steps again. We're going to create a new project. We're going to make an MVC app. If you don't see it on the list, probably you should see it in your recent project templates, but if you can't find it, you can just type MVC in here. And you should be able to find it, model view controller. It's got the C# logo here, so we know it's C#. I'm going to call this entity example. Okay, let it create. Alrighty, here's my entity example. So entity framework will require some libraries to be installed. So we're going to go to our project. We know it's the project because it's got this blue icon here. We're going to right click, manage NuGet packages. Okay, I'm going to search for entity framework. Alright, entity framework core is our first library. Go ahead and install that. Just say accept. Okay, and we should be good. So is it installed? Good, yeah, it's installed. Took a second. All right, we also need entity framework tools. So that'll help us do the migrations. Let's install that. All right, and then we also will need the SQL server because we're going to be connecting to a SQL server. So it needs to, entity framework needs this package in order to do. So it's entity framework core .SQL server. Okay, you don't have to use SQL Server. You want to use SQL Server Lite, but you can use other stuff too. So these basic packages are just basically saying, hey, entity will know how to connect to whatever the heck you want it to connect to. Oakley dokley. All right, so we've got our libraries. We're going to double check to see that they're installed. Okay, they're all installed. Good. All right, and then I'm going to make a data folder. And then I'm going to add a new class. Here we go. I'm going to call it application DB context. You can name it what you want, but typically this is what you'll see. Alrighty, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have it inherit from DB context. This is a class that comes from entity framework. Okay, remember if there's no using, if you get this like red line, you can hover over it with your mouse, wait for this light bulb to pop up, click this arrow, and then you can do the using statement, and you should be good. Then I'm going to put some code in, basically a constructor for the application DB context. I already have it written here, so I'm just going to go ahead and put it over here. All right, this is a constructor. We've seen constructors before, and basically what I'm just saying is I'm giving it the options. And these options, all you have to really understand about that is the options are just what kind of database am I using. SQLite, SQL Server, there's a couple other ones, PostGRE, whatever. You basically, any framework can work with a bunch of different flavors of database. This options is basically saying, hey, give me what database I'm working with. All right, so as far as the DB context, this is really all you need, right? But now I need to let the computer know, the program know where, like how to get this. So in order to do that, I'm going to go to program.cs. After line 1, I'm going to do builder.services.add DB context, then caret, and then application DB context. So that's the name of the context. Okay, it's a method. I'm going to go hover over this and wait for the light bulb to pop up. All right, and then inside I'm going to give those options. So this is a constructor, so it's going to be these options. I'm going to use lambda, so use SQL Server. Okay, and then it should be builder.configuration.getConnectionString. And then the connection string is going to be called appdb. The connection string is up to you what you want to name it. I just call it appdb because it's short and makes sense. So what this line is basically doing is basically telling the app will know that this exists, and this is how the options it needs. So this part right here in between these parentheses is this. Okay, that's basically what it's doing. So now I need this appdb connection string. I'm going to put that in my app settings. So I'm going to go to app settings.json over here on the right, and I'm going to make connection strings. You can see IntelliSense already, got me. I'll call it appdb. Make sure it matches with what you put here. Okay, case sensitive, because that's what this was looking for. And this is basically I'm telling the computer this is how you connect to the SQL server that I'm using. I've already got my connection string here, so I'm going to copy it over. Okay, keep in mind this first part is a server. This part is the name of the database. So I'm going to just basically say the name of my database is this. You can name whatever the heck you want. Make sure it just makes sense. And as far as any framework is concerned, that's really all you need. You got your application DB context. You've got your this is basically called dependency injection, which we'll go over later, but that's what this is basically setting up. So letting the app know, hey, this is where the DB context is, this is how you build it. And this is app settings to get the actual connection string. All right, so this should be enough to get started in order to use Entity Framework. Now we're going to do a model and then do a migration. So let's say I have a customer class. So we're going to go to the models folder, make a new class, call it customer. Okay, I'm going to have the customer have an ID. Remember this public int ID get set. Remember, it can be ID or customer ID as long as you stay consistent. It doesn't matter. Any framework will detect whatever it'll say basically if you have ID, it will say this is the primary key. I'm going to have public string first name, public string last name, and then I guess we'll just leave it at that for right now. I don't really care about more. So we've got an ID, first name, and last name for our customer. All right, cool. So I want to take this customer and make a customer's table, and Entity Framework can do that for us. The first thing we have to do is let the database context know that, hey, we've got another table. So we're going to do public. So we're going to go to application DB context, public DB set customer. I want it to be called the customer's table. And then it's just like a property get set. And we're going to have to import this for a using statement, which is fine. And bam, this basically says, hey, my database has a customers table. Cool. All right, well, as far as that's concerned, we've done the setup needed to do that, so we're going to now actually do a migration. So view, other windows, package manager console. You'll notice mine's already up. All right, so we're just going to do our first migration. So we're going to do add hyphen migration, initial migration, and then hit enter. So add hyphen migration, see, you gotta do the spelling, initial migration. Hit enter, it'll build for you, you don't have to do anything, it'll just do it for you. Okay, this is the migration. Remember, a migration, we have not actually added anything to the database. This is just saying, this is what I'm going to do. Migration is just the plan for what it's going to do. That way you can take a look at it and be like, hey, that's not what I wanted to do, and then you can reverse it, or you can be like, cool, this is what I want it to do. And then if it all looks good to you, what you can do then is apply the migration to the database with the command update hyphen database. Okay. I already have an object named customer database. What this basically means, I forgot to, let's just do a new one. I'm going to just go ahead and just make a new database. Okay, and then we're going to do it this way. So I already had a customer table in my old one. There we go. So if I go to SQL Server Management Studio, wait for that to open up. Connect to it. Notice how I made it like a Buckstar New. See how I just made the database for me? That didn't exist before. Entity Framework will create the database. And inside there, I've got my customers table. Okay, then we go to the design. You'll see it has first name, last name, so this will match what my class was. Every time you make a change, you can add new migrations. So let's, for example, say I'm adding another model, like, I don't know, product. Okay, let's build it. Public int ID, public string name, cool, public decimal price, great. Thank you, IntelliSense. All right, so we've got a product now. So remember, I gotta let the context know I've got a new table. Okay, so now I basically say db set product, and I named the table products. So notice how this customers, see how it's customers here in SQL? That's where it matches. That's how it gets the table name. All right, so I've got that in, so I'm going to do another migration. Add hyphen migration, products migration. You can name this whatever the heck you want. It could be like McGillicuddy. That's what you felt like doing, but it should be something. It's like a git commit. It should be fairly obvious what you're doing. Okay, it creates a migration. It's going to make a product table. I think this is good, so I'm going to apply the migration to the database by using update hyphen database. Okay, wait for it to do its thing. And then if we go back, remember when you refresh, you want to refresh the database, so make sure this is highlighted, then hit refresh. Okay, products table. If we look at the products table, bam. All right, so this way now you should be able to set up Entity Framework, and you should be able to do migrations. Try to keep your migrations simple. Don't get too fancy. You can roll back migrations and things like that, which we'll go into later. But for right now, just try to keep things as simple as possible. You should maybe have 1 or 2 classes, add them to your DB context like this, and then you can perform the migration. Entity Framework will update your database for you. All right, this should get you guys going with it. Good luck on your labs this weekend.